Hey there, Knicks fans. The NBA season does not let an injury rule out your bet. Other sportsbook let injuries box you out, but Fanatics Sportsbook's fair play protects all bets from first half injury. So if your player goes out with an injury, Fanatics keeps your bet on the court. Make the switch and get more ways to win with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning, it's different here. Well, that was fucking brutal. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. It is your boy, Jonathan Macri, here to talk to you about, it's going to happen at some point. Every season, it's just a matter of when. Our first heartbreaker of the year. And that was absolutely a heartbreaker for any number of reasons, starting with the fact that it was the Miami Heat. The hated Miami Heat, who just doesn't ever get any easier to lose to those guys. But more than that, I think this one had all the makings of a game where, you were going to, have the sort of feeling afterwards, like we had on Friday night, where the Knicks down to, certainly their best player, some might say their two best players, certainly two of their most important players. And on a night when they did not have it, certainly from a shot making perspective, they finished tonight shooting 9 of 36 from three. On a night when their opponent shot 14 of 35 from three. We'll get to that. Don't worry. They were still in this thing all the way through, and they got hit in the mouth. What you thought was going to be one final time, down 10 with whatever it was, 3 and change to go. And to have for one, to have several chances to tie it up, and briefly actually did tie it up if the goaltending call wasn't overturned. It was a game that you were going to feel really good about. It was a game that you were going to be really proud of them for, but now it's a loss. And now we have to do the unfortunate thing that when a game like that turns out to be a win, which literally was like, an inch away from, well, maybe not an inch away from happening, but if that ball that Cat put up at the end, the last shot attempt of the game, that was a quarter of the way down. That thing goes down, they win in overtime. Obviously we're going to be having a very different conversation, but you know what? Such is life. And when you lose, you open yourself up to a number of complaints, and there are going to be a lot of complaints tonight. And I'm going to honor all those complaints. But I'm going to tell you right now, I am not mad at the effort that I just saw. I'm not mad at the team for anything that they did or did not do. I'm not mad at the coach, who is made some interesting rotation decisions. Down a couple of guys, and we're definitely going to get into that in a few minutes. And I'm certainly not mad at any of the players, and that includes Karl-Anthony Towns. And I know this was a frustrating Towns game. Y'all know me enough by now to know that I have absolutely no problem unleashing on Karl-Anthony Towns when I feel that it is warranted. The final numbers, not great. 1 of 7 from three, although that one was absolutely massive. He saved his best for last, as he often does. It's worth noting. But 7 for 20 from the field, 22 points, 5 personal fouls, including the usual allotment of silliness, 4 turnovers. So you just look at those stats and it's not good. And then you look at some of the process stuff, and that's not great either, right? Frustration getting to him with some of the silly fouls. I thought the first half was certainly not his best. But I also see a guy that came out there in the second half, and was it perfect? No. Was there some more of the stuff that gets under your skin about Towns? Yes. But I want to remind everybody what I said after the last game, because it rings no less true now, which is that just because Towns is the sort of player whose mistakes and errors are louder, and they are, than other players, does not mean other stars, does not mean he should come down. We should come down on him that much more hard. Is it more frustrating because Jalen Brunson's out and he is the guy? Yeah, absolutely. Because he's the one who's has to shoulder the load. The reality is there is a reason why through 10 years, the league has kind of agreed upon the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns, for all of his talents, is not a guy who could be the best player on a championship team. No one's disputing that. No one disputed that after Friday night. No one's disputing that after tonight. No one's really disputed that for years. And games like this are why. It's the inconsistency. But I'm going to give him credit for hanging tough. I'm going to give him credit for gritting out a game where it required a lot of him on the defensive end. Again, was it always great defense? Absolutely not. I thought in the second half, he kind of came to play more on that end of the floor. 16 rebounds. I mean, that's, if the Knicks won this game, they would have won it based on their rebounding margin, which I think was 49-40, and I think is extra impressive because the one thing that Eric Spoelstra was harping on more than anything else over this entire weekend was rebounding. Guess what? Didn't work. The Knicks still kicked the shit out of them on the boards, and Karl-Anthony Towns was a big part of that. Is it frustrating to see him get decent looks from three and miss? Of course. But I'm not going to sit here and kill the guy for taking open looks from three, even if they're a little bit further out, And it's funny, you heard Breen on the broadcast, and I could tell what was going through his mind because it was going through my mind too, because he put up that one shot from three that you were like, man, that one's not a good shot. And Breen said it, that's not a good shot. And immediately he caught himself. Not that he went back on what he said, but he immediately was like, not that any shot is ever truly a bad shot. I forget what exactly his words were for Towns, but like acknowledging, when this guy's open, it's tough to tell him not to shoot it. Look, they didn't go down tonight up until that last one. Again, frustrating night. I know Towns is going to get killed tonight. It is what it is. I just wanted to say at the outset, it was a tough game from him. It was not a good Towns game. I would say it was a bad Towns game. I'm not going to sit here and destroy him for that because I thought, along with the rest of his teammates, all things considered, it was a gritty effort on a bad night. And then you look up and down the rest of the roster, and this is what makes it a tough loss because Mikal Bridges, that was a hell of an effort from Mikal Bridges. 23 points on 14 shots. He was the Knicks offense for really most of this game. You want to talk about a guy who stepped up in the absence of Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby. That Mikal Bridges game, really on both ends of the floor. How about this? 4 blocks and 2 steals for Mikal Bridges one game after he had 7 steals and 2 blocks. When's the last time a Knick had 9 steals and 6 blocks over a 2-game span? There's one. I'm probably want to look that one up. But Mikal Bridges is playing out of his mind, certainly defensively. The shot came back tonight. I thought he played within himself. And then obviously Deuce McBride, a big time game. He was questionable. The final numbers don't look great. 10 of 23 for 25 points, 5 of 12 from 3. But look, your guy Jalen Brunson's out. Your guy OG Anunoby's out. Someone's got to step up. And McBride, look, Clyde got on him for that last lefty running, I guess you'd call that a layup attempt. Was it a great shot? No. But this is what happens when you have your star is out and another, probably the best role player in the league. He's so good at being a role player. You could argue Anunoby is a star in his own right. When that level of player, when you're missing 2 of those guys, you're asking everybody else to play above their heads. Some guys are more capable of it than others. Mikal Bridges, I think, is very capable of it. Cat is capable of it at sometimes and not capable of it others. Deuce, I thought, gave you a really representative performance tonight. Was it perfect? No, it's not. Perfect, but those threes gigantic threes down the stretch of this game. And, and him with Bridges. And then I got to throw in Josh Hart too. And again, if we're going to get on Towns for a frustrating game, we got to get on Hart for a frustrating game. The difference was that Hart, I think the things that he did in the positive column, the positive contributions that Josh Hart made, and he finishes with 14 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, 6 turnovers. There's a Josh Hart stat line for you if you ever wanted to see one. The positives were certainly louder. There was a play in the fourth quarter where Miami tried to throw the ball ahead on the outlet pass and Hart just hustled back for the steal. And then obviously Hart getting the offensive rebound that led to the Karl-Anthony Towns 3. I mean, there's a reason why, even though it was an imperfect game for him, Mike Brown had Josh Hart down the stretch. And I have no problem with the lineup that Brown played late. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion about whether Mitchell Robinson should have been in the game for parts of that fourth quarter. I get it. I get it. At the same time, and this is going to lead me to, and look, if your argument is not only does Mitch help you on the defense, but how many second shots is he giving you? Because he is, in case anybody needed a reminder, rebounding fucking 30% of misses that his team has. I mean, he played 18 minutes tonight and had 5 offensive rebounds. That's low for him. You know what that pace is? That's only 10 rebounds, offensive rebounds per 36 minutes, which is actually below the record-setting pace he's currently on, but is still higher than anyone else has ever done in the history of the league. So you can make that argument, and look, when you lose, hindsight's 20/20, and you're open yourself up to anything. So I'm not going to be like, no, you're wrong to suggest that Mitch should have been in more down the stretch for defense, for offensive rebounding, the whole thing. The reason why I understood the direction that Mike Brown went in, and this is my biggest real takeaway from this game, to the extent that there is one in a game where you didn't have Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby, is you saw in this game, on a game where Cat was not at his best and Cat's shot was not falling. And that's the thing with Cat. When his shot's not falling, it just changes everything else. So when you didn't have the Friday Cat, which again, that guy can lead your team to 140 points. But when you didn't have that version of Cat, and when generally your 3-point shooters were not hitting shots, Landry Shamet 1 of 7 from 3, came back down to earth. I mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns, Josh Hart 0 of 3 from 3. I actually don't even remember. Oh yeah, never. I was about to say I don't remember 3 Josh Hart threes. That's because 2 of them were grenades. Again, I love you, Deuce. Amazing game, but elite ball handler you're not, which is going to play right back into this point. Clarkson 0 of 3 for 3. Although I'm going to get back to Clarkson in a second because I thought big minutes for Clarkson on the offensive end in the fourth quarter, not so much on the defensive end. My point, I finally got here. Without Jalen Brunson, this team, if Cat's not going to be otherworldly Cat, just has no path to consistently generate really good looks. They just don't. And that's not a condemnation on the front office because, they have assembled this roster in a way that makes, give or take some defensive tendencies of Karl-Anthony Towns. They've assembled this roster in a way that makes perfect sense around Jalen Brunson. And if everything is assembled to make perfect sense around Jalen Brunson to the point where you have the stretch 5 who theoretically, and we're starting to see it, play very well with Jalen, and the 2 wings who defensively can cover up for Jalen and also knock down threes and be threats around the arc and do a whole bunch of other secondary playmaking as well. Like I'm not going to kill him for not having that secondary playmaker. Cat, not your traditional number 2. We've talked about it. It is what it is. But on a night where Jalen Brunson is not in the game, you see it. Because for as much as you can get little bits and pieces of what Jalen Brunson does from, roughly in order, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, I was about to say, Josh Hart, Jordan Clarkson would be kind of 2-3 in some order. Because let me tell you, Jordan Clarkson did a pretty decent Jalen Brunson impersonation on a few of those possessions in the fourth. And a pretty good Jalen Brunson impersonation on a few possessions on the defensive end as well. Clarkson was good. They needed him. They needed him tonight. And then fourth on the list after Bridges, Clarkson, Hart, and then you want to throw Towns in there too. Really, it's fifth on the list is Deuce. And I hate that this is turning into a negative thing toward Deuce. But again, this is nothing we haven't said before. Deuce McBride is many things. A point guard is not one of them. So when you're ostensibly your starting point guard is not someone that can or can consistently initiate the offense in the way that a Jalen Brunson does, you're going to get possessions where you had tonight, where I actually think all things considered, they did a pretty good job generating good looks. Now, was some of that on isolations? Absolutely. I thought they passed the ball pretty well in the first half and just missed more shots in the first half. They ended up with 23 assists on 43 made field goals. That's not great. But again, a lot of those were good looks. At 9 to 36 from three, were there some bad looks out of those 36? Absolutely. You're going to have that on a night with no Brunson and when Towns isn't doing his crazy stuff. But there were also a lot of good looks in there that they missed. Like Shamet, out of his 7, he made 1 out of his 6 that he missed. 2 or 3 of those were really like pretty good. Cat had a bunch out of the 6 that he missed that were pretty good. Clarkson had an open one from the corner that he missed. So they had the looks tonight, and so I guess I'm going to spin this into a positive by saying, yes, do they have the ability to generate that level of offense without Brunson and when Cat is not otherworldly? No. And yet, 113 points on a night where you shot 9 of 36 from deep, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, all things considered. Let's get to a couple other things before we get to the super chats. I'll talk about the defense first. People are getting frustrated, and fans are getting frustrated. I'm not there yet because I guess this is the old Knick fan in me. No, it's not the old Knick fan. The old Knick fan in me, the Knick fan from the 90s, would be apoplectic. This is coming from the Knick fan who watched whatever it was, 18 out of 20 or 17 out of 19 years of just utterly pathetic basketball and effort and all of that stuff. The effort is there. These guys are bought into the scheme. I really thought the effort in the second half defensively was at a very high level. Really, I don't think that's overstating it. If you guys disagree, tell me you disagree. You know how to do it. I thought that the effort in the second half was at a very high level. Defensively, the execution this season has not been where it needs to be. There is overhelping going on. There is probably just helping going on that does not need to happen at all. I think you are seeing the cracks in the cracks in the pavement here, because again, when you lose an all defense caliber player, and when your other semi all defense caliber player, and Mitchell Robinson, is only playing 18 minutes a night, and that's all he played tonight. Well, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, you still got Bridges. That's good. Then who's your second best defensive player on this? Is it McBride? Okay, well, you're giving up some size there, that always will come into play here and there. And then it's Josh Hart, and then it's like, okay, 26 minutes of Clarkson, 39 minutes of Shamet. Shamet tries, but Shamet's size is what it is. And I thought I don't have any complaints about Shamet defensively tonight. He tries his ass off out there. By the way, 39 minutes for Landry Shamet. Boy, oh boy. And Towns, obviously, and just one other guy who played 10 minutes, I guess we can get to now. But before I get there, no, the defense isn't good enough. The defense needs to improve. I am not going crazy about the defense because I do think it's early. I do think it will improve. I trust these guys to get better as the season goes along. And at the end of the day, if they don't have OG Anunoby, they just don't stand a chance defensively against certainly good offenses. And I think we're at the point where we could say the Heat are a good offense. Okay. Certainly a unique offense. And they put a lot of pressure on you. And I think the Heat are going to be heard from this year as far as I'll say right now, I think the Heat are going to be a playoff team. Not a play-in team, a playoff team. Okay. Last but not least, unless I have missed anything. No, I talked about Hart, talked about Clarkson. Talked about, Shamet, 2 of 11, man. It's tough. I can't kill Shamet. He had the game of his life the other night. Okay. Gershon Yabusele. And the Knicks, I'll call it the Knicks deep bench in general. So I was going back and forth with a few people on chatnix.com. Shout out, by the way, to chatnix.com. We launched this thing a month ago, I think. Maybe a month and 5 weeks ago, something like that. almost 400 members. As a reminder to anyone who hasn't joined us, all we do is we just talk about the Knicks all day, and especially during the games. So go download that app. Again, chatnicks.com. We're giving away 2 tickets to the Raptors game on November 30th in about a week or so. So all you got to do, join up with that, and then make a comment, and you're entered to win. Kev, that's a good stat of the night. Anyway, so I was going back and forth with some fans in there, and I was saying, and I think I used the words massive something, massive miss, massive something, in terms of if this is what they are going to get from Guerschon Yabusele on almost the whole mid-level, that's a massive issue. Now, I said that at halftime. Second half, Guerschon Yabusele came in, and I actually thought he played pretty well. He didn't score in 10 minutes. He didn't take a shot in 10 minutes. He didn't even look like he was looking to shoot in 10 minutes. Got 3 rebounds. It did not look like it was I mean, again, were there moments? Yeah, there were moments. He did not look out of place on defense. I thought he actually played pretty well on defense. Offensively, like he was getting in there. So this is really, it's not really a commentary on Guerschon's performance tonight, because again, I thought in the 10 minutes he played, it was okay. But the fact that they are down 2 starters, and Mike Brown, who is a coach that I'm always going to default to trusting the coach, as everybody well knows. And I'm going to trust this coach. And if Mike Brown did not feel like he could turn to Guerschon Yabusele in the first half, when he played 7 guys plus Mohamed Diawara, and I was hoping Mohamed would get a shot here, and he did, and he got a shot for about 48 seconds. Like that. First of all, that's just not a good sign. Maybe I overstated it earlier, but it's not a good sign. And I hope it's a wake-up call to Yabusele, and maybe he's already gotten his wake-up call because he's kind of already fallen out of the rotation. But like, man, with OG and JB down, to not get off the bench in the first half, and then I'll even go further than that. Like, and this kind of gets more to the front office end of things, where you used 3 draft picks last year on Tyler Kolek, on Pacome Dadier, and on Ariel Hukporti. And Hukporti, I can't even really put in this conversation. The guy was a 50 whatever pick in the draft. But like Kolek and Dadier in particular, for them not to get time in a game like this, again, I'm not putting 1 ounce of blame on Mike Brown, because we saw both of those guys play more in the preseason in Dadier's case and some in the regular season for Kolek. They did not look like they were ready to play minutes for a team that has intentions on winning. And that's a tough look, and I routinely not only defend the front office, I kind of stand for the front office, not as much as some do, but I just think I have a particular appreciation of what it is to be a front office working for Jim Dolan. I like how I combined Jim and Jim's. Just Jim, one Jim. But like, it's a tough look. It's a tough look that those guys can't give you 5 minutes in this kind of game. Especially when, and this is how I'm going to circle all the way back around, I just said everything I said about the lack of a real true playmaker on a night like this, really kind of shows up. And you got a point guard who we know is a gifted passer right there on the bench. And again, to be very clear, one more time, for anybody who may not have heard the first 2 times, I'm not blaming Mike Brown at all for this. Really not. Like, just tough. You'd love for one of those guys, and Dadier, who would be a theoretically good OG Anunoby replacement for even 5 or 10 minutes, a big wing who could shoot and maybe defend a little bit. Well, that's what he was supposed to be. And we're seeing Mohamed Diawara before last year's first round pick. So what does that tell you? Must be 21 or over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See Fanatics Sportsbook app.